Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Gopal. We will wait for a minute before we start this presentation. All right, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon again. My name is Gopal Kadapalli. I'm the pre-sales head for VDI for North America region. Today Seshu couldn't make it. He's the global VDI head from Wipro, so I'm actually filling in for him today. So I'm going to go through the presentation, and this is a joint presentation. So I'll start the presentation, and after some time, Mike Brennan, a VDI global lead from Cisco, will take over, and he will share and give some insight into Cisco hardware. From again, I'm going to take over and go through our case studies and also customer wins, and we will conclude the presentation today. Okay. All right, that being said, we're going to go to the agenda. So today we're going to talk about Wipro and Cisco partnership. We are also going to talk about landscape changes, what drives workplace virtualization. Then we're going to talk about the joint partnership between Wipro and Cisco to bring virtualization solution to the industry. Then we're going to talk about some customer wins in the process. So if you have any questions, feel free to type in that window, and I'll be able to see those questions here. As and when they pop up, I'll try to answer them. If not, I'll wait until reach certain level of presentation, then I'll answer again. Okay. So now what you're seeing is we have been partnering with each other for the last 21 years. That's a long time. We started our partnership back in 1995. Since then, we have been building solutions together. We've been taking those solutions to the industry. And the main important point here is now in 2016, we established 3 innovation centers across the globe. And we launched application-centric infrastructure labs worldwide. We also certified SAP HANA Partner Cloud, exclusively built on Cisco products. Then there is a joint work in smart cities that are coming up in Asian part of the world. Okay. So now let's take a look at the computing trends and implications on enterprise IT, right? So CTO's objective is, I want to enable my employees to access latest applications from anywhere across any device. That is the Chief Technology Officer speaking in any organization. And CFO says, yes, that's great, but is it going to save money to me? Is it going to save money to the company, right? And CIO says, I want to make sure, I want to protect my data. I want to ensure everybody has a secure access from anywhere, any device, any network. So that's the CIO's request. So coming to the trends impacting the end user computing is, as everybody knows, it's moving towards from device-centric to user-centric model, right? Because users are started bringing many more devices into the organization. Then you're looking at, teams spread across the globe. There are virtual teams. Even within the team, people are sitting across the globe or across the cities. So we have virtual teams spread across the globe. So that is also changing, how end user computing is going to be, evolving. Then moving from silo-based IT practices to as a service model. Everybody wants everything as a service, right? So, and also most of the organization, if not all, have started their journey towards cloud, right? So everybody is talking about that cloud. Everybody wants to know how can I, move my applications to cloud and enable end users to access them from any device, which is, again, bringing into BYOD or CYOD models into the organization. And there are many more mergers and acquisitions happening within the same, line of business across the globe. So once a merger and acquisition happens, how quickly can we truly merge our IT organizations, or how quickly I can enable other organizations to access my applications. So these are all the trends, impacting end user computing. These are all great. These are all, great. But the challenges to the enterprises is managing multiple devices per user, right? Users are bringing in more and more devices, as we know, and they want to bring in their personal devices, right? And people want to get the same experience across all those devices. They want to access the same data across all those devices. How are you going to enable that? But when you do that, security and compliance is a major issue. How you're actually addressing that is also important here. Plus, operating system and hardware refresh cycles are shrinking in the sense of much faster it's happening. Now everybody knows now when we are moving away from Windows 7 to Windows 10, that journey started for many organizations. And there is a rapid deployment and decommissioning of hardware is happening. So these are some of the challenges that organizations are facing today. So to address all of those, you have this virtualization coming along, right? So if you look at, earlier we have a single device, a regular PC, and we go through that procurement, that image, secure, monitor, retire, that entire life cycle just for that one device. Now the next generation computing, any device is coming into the picture. We have desktops, we have laptops, thin clients, tablets, phones. A lot of those things are coming into the industry, into the organization. If you have a virtualization layer, you'll be able to, offer that as a service. Then, you can bring in your own device. We can offer a stable environment, which is centralized and automated again, right? So these are the, challenges, and also these are the trends that you're actually observing in the industry. Okay. So key triggers from a workplace virtualization perspective, there are business changes, there is technology change, there is the mobility came into the picture. Business change-wise, if you look at acquisitions or remote workers or contractors or, organizations want to open more and more branch offices, but, they want to manage it effectively. And there is a technology change. We talked about operating system refresh. And, everybody wants to get onto the latest and greatest technologies quickly. And thin clients are coming into the picture. Then the mobility is coming into the picture. Every company has a mobile strategy today, and they want to deliver applications and data to that mobile device. That's also changing, right? So the organization's perspective that are really concerned about this is a CIO, end user computing, data center, and office of CTO. From a business side, you always have sales, marketing, these branches of business. Earlier, there used to be a decision back and forth. People used to take a little bit longer time, but now the decisions are almost done instantaneously at partnership level now. And earlier, business used to make a decision and say, IT, take care of this. Now, it's more like IT and business together sitting and making a decision what's best for the business. So that is happening today in the world. And also, from a service delivery model perspective, the maturity has, you can see the maturity levels here. Earlier days, people used to do the time and material only, then went into the managed services, then went into total outsourcing. Now everybody wants everything as a service. Right? Even in the world, in the infrastructure, we know everybody's asking for infrastructure as a service or a platform as a service, or software as a service. Now even VDI as a service model. So that is where we can offer that. We have implemented this as a service model in many companies. We have European energy company we have implemented for 4,000 users. Within Wipro we have implemented 20,000 users on multiple technology platforms. But it's a VDI. We can give offer that seamless experience across multiple technologies, deliver that in these virtual desktops. We have a global pharma company with 14,000 users across the globe. Then we also have implemented in a media company in Europe for 3,500 users. So this is these are the companies who went with us through the service delivery maturity level. So some of the benefits that workplace virtualization benefits organizations are reaping today is multitasking. If you have people working in multiple environments, you can access all of them securely. Then we can provision a developer desktops with all the necessary tools for the developer and deliver it instantaneously. And we can enable people work from home as an organization. That helps, the productivity and also motivation, right? Then there is a workforce access to the talent. And most of you probably assist your organizations in college recruiting. One of the questions nowadays kids are asking, can I work from home? Can I choose my own city and work from there? And with this virtualization, you can always enable and bring that talent to your organization. In a sense, you even can set up a branch office in a low-cost locations and let users, your employees, access these desktops and work from those low-cost locations. Then again, you also have optimization. Because if you are leveraging virtual desktops, there are ways you can actually optimize license costs. Right? And you can also, office space perspective, not necessarily everybody is coming into the office nowadays. You can enable hotel seating and people can reserve those seating when they come into the office. You can put in a thin client and they'll be able to access their virtual desktop even from that thin client. And the training environments, it's easy to spin off and also refresh those training environments because of the virtualization in place. BYOD is another benefit that people can really take advantage of. And all of this, with the improved security, because you are taking away the data from the end user devices and moving all of that into the data center. And of course, you still have to encrypt those devices wherever you have a local copy, but most of the data is moved to data center, which is, better security for us. And license compliance is also easy to tackle. Every Microsoft true-up or any, IBM true-ups, you can always, manage it because everything is centralized. So now I'm going to go into our joint solution, what we brought to the industry, right? So here, what we brought to the industry is a VirtuaDesk. This is a Wipro terminology. We brought VirtuaDesk as an offering. This is as a service model we brought to the industry. We worked with Cisco extensively and leveraged their hardware to bring affordability, scalability, guaranteed performance, guaranteed availability. Those are the things we actually bring to the table with this partnership. We have flexible deployment options. If you want us to deploy this virtual infrastructure in your data center, we can do that. If you want us to do that in our own data center, we can do it on our own data center. If you want it in a public cloud, we can, enable that in that hybrid model, right? So we have worked on building this. We brought a lot of automation to this, a lot of standardization to this, self-service, self-healing, you name it. We brought all of those so that we can give you the guaranteed performance and also guaranteed availability. We leverage some of the technologies which I'm going to go through in a few minutes that actually gives you the performance at a low cost. I'm not increasing your cost to give you better performance here. I'm actually offering you the better performance at a lower cost. That is what we brought to the table as a joint partner. Okay. So this appliance we're talking about, this is a hyper-converged appliance. It has a software, it has hardware architecture, and managed services built around it. So if you look at this hardware architecture, we actually built redundancy in it to offer you the high availability. That is why we are confident and we can offer high availability on paper as well. In the sense, we can write penalty clauses because we are confident. What we build is working very well and we trust in that platform, right? And software architecture is also there. We actually took commodity, software. Pretty much I can bring in any software, from virtualization perspective, I can leverage Citrix or VMware and deliver the same performance that you desire from our appliance, right? As a result, the benefit you're going to get is we're going to have, because of the redundancy hardware and software components, we're going to offer you 1.5 times end user productivity improvement. This is in comparison with your traditional VDI environment. Okay. And performance-wise, because we leverage software-defined storage and we have that storage boost architecture in place, which actually helps us to give you better performance, better end-user experience. That is 2 times. From a scalability perspective, I can scale vertically, add more servers to the appliance and offer you vertical scaling. If I need to add more appliances, I can quickly add more appliances right next to it. And because of the automation we built in, we were able to offer that 25% reduction as well. And there is a self-service, that we simplified that IT operations. So self-service is not only to the end users, that's, but it is also to the engineers, help desk people who can go in and perform certain self-service activities, right? So that helps, that simplified it. And the monitoring, we built in monitoring such that we can actually monitor end user experience. We not only monitor infrastructure, but we also monitor end user experience. If a user is having a latency in opening up an application, before that end user picks up a phone and calls help desk, our folks in GCC can look at it and act upon it before the end user calls us. So we have so many examples where we notice something, we immediately move those workloads to somewhere else, either automatically or manually, and make sure the end user is not impacted. More often, end users doesn't even know there was an issue somewhere in the infrastructure that we addressed it unless we tell them, unless they see that ticket automatically, that ticket opens and we address it, we close the ticket, and somebody reviews that ticket, they wouldn't know there was an issue. But of course, our reports will show that and display that all of it to the management. And we also offer DR. We can integrate this with your infrastructure. We can integrate with your DLP, antivirus, and all ticketing tools, your ITSM. If you have special, tap and go solutions in place, we can integrate into that. So these are some of the, VirtuaDesk features. So there are quite a bit of, few, but I just didn't want to go through all of them. So now let's talk about VirtuaDesk stack. I mean, you saw that there is a redundancy built in at a hardware level. Now let's look at what we are using as a software here. We built in our own portal, right? It has application store, it has user administration, it has engineering support, all of that is built into the portal. We also built a platform depending on, that depends on UCS director. And we built a delivery platform, service delivery platform, and a workflow automation. So if a user requests an application, goes to the portal, clicks on it, if that product is licensed and controlled, that automatically generates a ticket that goes for approval to his or her manager. Once they approve it, that application is automatically provisioned to the end user. So there is no manual intervention there. That automation, workflow automation is already built in. Then we built in a fabric because of the deployment automation we leveraged Cisco ACI. And we built some hypervisor level plugins. Because of this, whenever somebody wants to scale either vertically or horizontally, we'll be able to do it a lot faster for you. Okay. So here, so you can see here, the technology perspective, desktop virtualization side, I can leverage Citrix, I can leverage VMware. And the reason we build this way is there are certain organizations tied up to certain technologies. Our objective is not the technology. What we're bringing in here is end user experience. We are offering virtual desktop as a service. So the way we look at it is end users or the organization should only care about that virtual desktop as a service. When they care about, they should care about whether my virtual desktop is up and running or not, what is the availability, what is the performance, what are the SLAs. We want to bring that model to organizations. But of course, because organizations have already invested into some level of virtualization, what we are trying to do is we can accommodate that into our plans so that your investments will not go waste. So if you invested in Citrix, I can leverage Citrix technology in such that I can leverage your licenses for those. So you don't have to pay for them twice. So from a fabric perspective, you can see deployment automation, UCS manager we leveraged. From a hypervisor, we can bring in either Hyper-V or ESXi. Software-defined storage, data core and Exenta. And compute side, obviously, Cisco, right? So we leverage those. So deployment options perspective, we do have, as I said, the enterprise model. We can do it in your data center, our data center, or when you choose to go to cloud, hybrid model, we can offer it here. So these are some of the graphs you're seeing at the bottom of the screen. These are the graphs displayed in our TVs, in our global command center. Folks will be monitoring each and individual installations and see what's happening. If there is an issue, it is always color-coded, green, amber, and red. So amber means, there might be an issue in 2 to 4 hours. Red means there might be an issue in hour to 2. So that is how we monitor proactively and address any issues in the environment. We are actually monitoring end user experience as well. Guys, I got a question from somebody here. Is anyone else experiencing major times of audio interruption? Is the audio clear to everybody?
I haven't had any interruption, Gopal, on my end.
Okay. I just want to make sure, if it is one isolation, maybe the issue is in your side rather than in our side. All right. back to the presentation. So as we have been doing this for the last 3 years, we built a knowledge base for it. We built self-healing tools, self-service portals. We built automated troubleshooting tools. This is an interesting one. So an L1 level person can perform L2 level tasks. How is it possible? Because we built this automated troubleshooting tool that L1 person can right-click on a tool and perform that function that normally a L2 person would do it. Right? So some of these automations actually helped us to keep the cost down and also offer you the better performance to the end user. Okay. All right. So the key differentiators, basically there are a lot of companies offer, virtualization. They'll come in and implement traditional virtual desktops, but we don't do that. We actually built a framework. We actually built proactive alerting and predictive analytics, which actually helps a lot of these organizations because we truly believe that end user device is the mission critical piece in your organization. We want to make sure that critical machine is up and running all the time. That is our objective. We are willing to write a contract unless you meet that high availability and performance. We don't get paid for it. So the key differentiators here, it is a customizable deployment option. We could deploy it in your organization, our organization, or a hybrid. Plus, if you already invested in some technology, we can leverage that technology so that your investments will not go waste. Evergreen IT. Because this is as a service, we try to keep everything as N-1. Unless some of your legacy applications, which is preventing us to go to N-1 version, then we'll work with you and your vendors to get that application upgraded so that we can move quickly to N-1, which is obviously everybody knows, that is better for security and performance and the functionality. Then because we leverage the software-defined storage, we are offering better performance at a lower cost. Flexible commercial model. We can do it as completely as an OpEx model. So in a sense, you can pay for the per user per month pricing, or if you want to invest into that hardware upfront, if you are CapEx heavy, you can invest into that hardware procurement. Then services-wise, supporting that user, supporting that infrastructure, we do that as a OpEx, so CapEx plus OpEx. User experience management, which is a very critical piece of function in this whole thing. See, so as I said, I can monitor if an end user is facing an application latency, and if it is happening within the virtual desktop plans, we can address it quickly. If not, at least your NOC teams would know the issue is not inside this appliance. So the troubleshooting time frame, we're actually shrinking it. Then we have a self-service model. Self-service is not just for end user, it is also for the supporting engineers. Even help desk users can do that self-service for themselves to support other users as well. Because we built all of this, we have taken it to the industry. We have more than 15 large customers. So that gives us an opportunity to sit with analysts, right? So we sat with IDC, we sat with Forrester analysts. You can see the graph in a Forrester that Forrester rated us as the leaders in this space for the same reasons that I actually explained it to you. So with this, I'm going to hand it over to Mike Brennan, who is the global VDI lead from Cisco, who is going to take you through the journey of Cisco hardware platform. Then I'll come back again and talk about some of the customer wins. Mike, to you.
Thank you, Gopal. Hey, it's great to be with your customers on this webinar. Our joint partnership with Wipro, spanning over 21 years, is really one of our longest and most productive partnerships. So we're very happy to work with Wipro on an ongoing basis and participate in this outstanding desktop virtualization as a service offering called VirtuaDesk. So, if you think about Cisco, we're much younger in the server business. We came to market late in 2009, early in 2010, and we came with a disruptive idea in computing. And the idea, I'll talk about it in a little more depth, but today we're on our 4th generation of UCS servers. Those 4th generation servers use the latest Intel x86 technology. We have those servers in both blade and rack form factors. We are basically in the core data centers. A lot of workloads run on our blade and rack servers. Our management innovation is really what made UCS grow. So we've grown from 0 in 2009 to about a $5 billion run rate at the end of our fiscal year 2016. And that was built on our management platform that unifies storage, network, and compute in a single management plane called UCS Manager. And more recently, we've introduced a new product in our switching line called Cisco ACI. It stands for Application-Centric Infrastructure. And I'll go a little deeper on that as we go on, but that ACI infrastructure, and you saw it referenced in a couple of Gopal's slides a little bit earlier, gives us the ability to really focus on applications and the application performance so that it will contribute to Wipro's ability to make sure that application, that end user experience is what the SLA calls for. So if you look at the left side of this slide, our platforms go from our UCS Mini platform, which is a self-contained 6-rack unit chassis that can hold up to 8 UCS B200 M4 blades in a self-contained environment. The fabric interconnects are built into the chassis to our HyperFlex model, where our HyperFlex is our hyperconverged platform that runs on rack servers that incorporates storage, compute, and network all in one device. So that's our edge scale computing. So think about that out in the branch offices, smaller commercial businesses and those types of places. Over on the right side in the huge app deployments in the data centers, and we have cloud scale computing. We have a new series of servers that are called our S series, which are our storage-centric servers. You see on this particular diagram, we call out a UCSC 3160. We also have a 3260, and now we have rebranded those servers as dense storage servers in our S series. So all those platforms, the other thing that makes us unique is for our edge scale computing right through the data center out to cloud scale computing and our storage systems, they're all managed by our UCS management software. And I'll talk about some of the advantages of that coming up here in just a second. So, here's the deal. The Cisco Unified Computing System is a differentiated, revolutionary approach, right? We have a simplified architecture. Our networking is with fewer components. Our cabling, we actually have done studies against competing products, and our cabling costs are significantly lower. In a data center deployment like Wipro has, you can save up to $2 million in cabling costs alone because of our simplified cabling architecture. We use converged network adapters, meaning we can carry Ethernet and storage traffic. Ethernet, fiber channel over Ethernet, iSCSI, and 10 gig Ethernet all over the same cable through the same adapter. So you don't need multiple adapters. You need fewer management touch points. And the other key thing that we introduce when we introduce UCS is a stateless server. What does that mean? It means when you take the server out of the box, it does not have any built-in or burned-in MAC addresses on the converged network adapter, no burned-in host bus adapter addresses or WWNs. Nothing is permanent on the server. All of the server's personality is delivered by what are called service profiles. And if you think about unified management, what does that give you? By unifying the management, as we saw in the data center across all of our equipment, we're faster to deploy and provision. So today, if you took a UCS B200M4 out of the box and put it into a chassis, our UCS manager would identify the blade. It would see what kind of processors and memory it had. Based on that, we might have a profile that said if you find a server that comes online with these characteristics, say Intel E5 2680 processor and 512 gigs of RAM, that's enough for us to identify that as a VDI blade. We automatically associate a service profile, and the server is online ready to have a hypervisor deployed on it within 20 minutes. And that's as long as it takes, and that's not an exaggeration. So by doing all the unification, it reduces complexity, and we manage the whole system from that single pane of glass called UCS Manager. In Wipro's case, where we have multiple data centers and we might even have deployments in your data center, we have a tool called UCS Central, which allows us to manage multiple UCS domains. And a UCS domain is a framework we use to set the contents of a UCS deployment. So what does that give you? All this leads to higher performance and much, much better scale. So we are able to optimize our utilization for compute, network, and management by using standardized profiles. And that ultimately leads to scalability, so that each and every server that has a particular use defined for it, in our case here, a VDI, each VDI server is configured exactly identically. There's no human intervention that's required. There's no configuration drift. And what we get that, therefore, is linear scalability for VDI, which is really important for Wipro, our partner, in being able to be confident that they can deploy a certain number of virtual desktops on each one of our hardware platforms and get the exact same performance for you. So you can go to the bank on the performance that's provided by the UCS infrastructure. So here's the differentiated benefits we have for desktop virtualization in particular. So we do have the leading scalability in the marketplace, validated by third-party companies that do studies and catalog our performance. We can scale from 1 to 1,000 desktops. We have a tool that we use to measure performance, end user response times, and the end user response time of the first user and the second user and the thousandth user or tens of thousands of users is the same because of that linear scalability. And we have our simplified operational model. I talked about that a minute ago, going from bare metal to provision of desktops, and this is where the Wipro system takes our UCS Manager a step further with some of our tools like UCS Director and some of their own tools that allow us to get that blade or rack server in the system ready for the hypervisor. We can lay the hypervisor down, we can lay the brokers down and get your desktops supported on it in really short order. And that's important, especially when we're looking for an elastic model where we can scale quickly. It also gives us the ability to switch workloads. So if in Wipro's data center, they not only run VDI, as Gopal mentioned earlier, there's all kinds of applications that they host. If they have a surge in one application over another, our UCS Manager lets them load balance their server stacks based on application load, so that if they need a additional VDI workload and they have a spare SAP server that's not in service or not being used at the moment, we can easily provision it over, and that really makes them much, much more efficient. So our infrastructures are built with VDI in mind. We know what it takes to do VDI. We know the things that can make it break. Things that make it break are lack of quality of service. So we prioritize the VDI traffic that goes to the end user's screen. We make sure that things like vMotion events, moving VMs around, don't negatively impact the performance on the desktop. And you can see the little graphic underneath that third column there where the chart is showing, and that's the throughput with QoS. That's a critical thing. We prioritize the VDI traffic and throttle anything else that is not latency sensitive, because VDI is. And then, we have a full spectrum of solutions, and from small and medium to large enterprise. In the case of Wipro, we're at the large enterprise end, and our solutions are optimized leveraging Cisco and partner technologies. On the slide here, Wipro is partnered with Nexenta as an example, data domain, other partners of both companies to give you the ultimate experience. So this is really the secret sauce. I alluded to this a minute ago, but I want to show you how this works. So in every organization, every IT organization, you have people that are storage subject matter experts, server experts, network experts, and each one of these people, in a traditional IT environment are required to interact anytime we want to make adds or changes to the system. What UCS Manager does is it takes those storage, server, and network subject matter experts, extracts their knowledge into policies for each one of those areas, and then we use those policies to create service profiles. Those service profiles lay down things like their MAC addresses and WWNs, but it also defines their personality in terms of their NIC configuration. How many host bus adapters do they have? How many Ethernet NICs does each host have? And that gets associated to the server automatically by using associations that we can build based on the workloads and based on the hardware that's in the server. So it's use the subject matter experts once to create policy, and then deploy those policies consistently over the fabric time and time and time again. It also makes it interesting to manage change as well. So one of the key things we have here is our UCS Director software. It's basically a policy-driven provisioning system that lets us provision operating systems and virtual machines, the compute nodes themselves, our network services, and storage connections. So we do that again through a policy-defined system. The UCS Director can help do maintenance on the system too. So it's another key element in the UCS bags of tricks, if you will. It's one of our key orchestration pieces, the UCS Director. So finally, ACI, Application-Centric Infrastructure. I wanted to show you how it looks from really quickly from a physical standpoint. At the top there you see the ACI fabric, the spine switches. Those are the aggregation switches. The next layer down, and it looks like the label got knocked off, those are called leaf switches. The leaf switches are what are connected to the compute and any other device. So as we think about the Internet of Things, and as more and more devices are connected to the network, they'll be connected to these leaf switches. And then the leaf switches are connected to our APICs, or our Application Policy Infrastructure Controllers. And what the ACI is it's a programmable compute infrastructure. This is the UCS API to the installed software stack, hypervisors, OS, and applications for identification, monitoring, configuration, and control. Then it's an automated application-centric model. So it's a software-defined network architecture, if you will. Its goals are to accelerate application delivery, reduce costs, and increase business agility. So let's take a look at a more, this is a little busier slide, but it gives you the idea here. So on the top left, we define the application communication policies, and we can do that for a wide variety of things: networking, security, quality of service, application tiering, and virtualization. So you set those policies out on the different components that you want to control with ACI. And then you provision that policy to the fabric. And in this case, we show a NetApp storage controller here, but it can be any storage device, including Cisco S-Series or storage, the software-defined storage running on Cisco UCS C-Series. So here you can see those spine switches over here on the far left that are talking to the leaf switches in the middle, which are the Nexus 93-180s, and the Apex, the application infrastructure controllers here on the center of the slide. So the whole idea here is a smarter network that is tuned to the application. In our case for Wipro, in our VirtuaDesk, we're tuned to VDI. So we're making sure that our VDI infrastructure is getting the right QoS, the right priority on the network, so that the user gets the best end user experience. So I think that's the end of my presentation. Gopal, I'll turn it back over to you. And Gopal, you might be on mute, I'm guessing. All right, looks like Gopal may have dropped off, so let's go ahead and go forward on the deck. So here are some key customer wins for VirtuaDesk. Wipro IT itself has 20,000 users. They use published applications, desktops, and dedicated desktops, meaning I think persistent desktops. So for your VDI desktops, you have a choice. You can give your users a desktop that's built on your image, and they get that desktop and those applications that are installed on it every time. These are good for task workers and application workers. They're not assigned to the user. When the user logs off, the desktop gets rebooted and the desktop is refreshed and ready for the next user. The user's personality, though, is preserved with user profile management techniques so that when he logs in the next time, regardless of what desktop he gets, he is able to, it feels like he's been there before. Some of his preferences are already set and kept. The dedicated desktops let the user do things like install applications. So the Wipro IT function is mostly located out of India. I think Gopal talked a little bit about a European energy company which has both dedicated and pooled desktops, 5,600 users. That global pharmaceutical company, again, with 14,000 users using published applications and published desktops. And they span North America, Europe, and APAC. And then finally, the European media company with 3,500 users with published applications, pooled desktops, and that's in Scandinavia. Gopal, you back with us?
I am back. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
Sure.
For some reason, it disconnected me. And Anyway, thank you very much for covering it. So
sure.
We didn't want to put all of our customer wins here, but we just want to showcase this slide just to show you. We started our journey. We built this appliance in a partnership with Cisco. We implemented internally within Wipro on both Citrix and VMware technologies on the UCS platform. So we have 20,000 users within Wipro, and we want to test it thoroughly inside. It also helps in a different way. For example, if there is a patch, if there is an upgrade, we first do it within Wipro, which actually works as a test bed for before we take it to our customers. That's another advantage we found. Okay. So let me go to next slide. Here, just want to showcase that, our capabilities. We are currently managing 300,000 plus virtual desktops, and we have, 10 plus customers. This is a little bit old, but we have 15 plus customers now. We have 100 plus SOPs we built. We have 500 plus Citrix certified, experts. We have 400 plus VMware experts, out of which 70% of them are certified. And we do offer different service models. As we said, desktop as a service, we offer that. We offer within on-premise. We offer in the cloud, private or public. We offer this as a white label solution. There is one company in Europe actually leveraging this white label solution and offering desktop as a service in Europe. And we have, hybrid solutions in place. We offer that on-premise and cloud hybrid solution. We also offer everything is as a service. both virtual desktops and also application as a service, right? So while I'm talking about it, this is our Wipro India employees, 15,000 users on Citrix, and we have 5,000 users on VMware platform. We have 65% Zen app, 35% Zen desktop. This is primarily enabled. We also implemented AirWatch MDM within Wipro. So in combination of both, we are able to offer BYOD for both, not only personal laptops and, MacBooks, but also to their mobile devices, right? And with this, we are able to onboard end users in day. The day they join, they have a virtual desktop available, which means they are going to be productive from day one. Of course, they have to go through the orientation, but once they're done with the orientation, they're pretty much productive. They have given their virtual desktops. There is always a thin client they can, get their hands on, sit in, and actually access their virtual desktop. So pretty much all the applications that are needed for that individual to be productive, it is there on day one. So we implemented, in multiple locations. Okay. So I got a question here: in which markets globally there are more traction for VDI? To be honest, in every market, every segment, people started experimenting with VDI. Some they tried it with their own, and but of course they were able to successful to a certain extent. But to get to that end state, it takes a little bit time. So that is where some companies, organization approached us, and we helped them as well. But more often, what I'm noticing in the industry right now is healthcare, financial, and energy sector. I'm seeing more traction compared to the other segments. Okay. So now we have a European energy company that we deployed 5,600 users. This is one of the good achievements. You can see that entire deployment time is 3 months. That includes the hardware procurement. Because of the UCS platform and the automation we built, we were able to deploy it much faster way. Now we're actually scaling to next level, which is 16,000. We got, customer came back and asked for more virtualization. Okay. So, sorry, I think with this, that's the last slide I have. So let me go and take this another question here. So what are the key differentiators that makes VirtuaDesk better for end users compared to similar competing solutions in the market? Very good question. So if you go back, there was a company called Mocha5. They offered, Desktone had offered. Of course, VMware bought Desktone, and now, they're trying to market that. But what they're trying to do today, we started that journey 3 years ago. And even if you go to these companies, they only offer you, they'll come in, they'll implement it, but somebody else has to manage it. And for us, we bring a holistic view into this virtualization, which means you'll be able to see whether your environment is green or not, in the sense that includes end user experience. When I talk about end user experience, I'm not talking just configurations that follows the end user. I'm talking about an end user who can get consistent performance in opening those applications, right? And apart from that, is some of the key benefits, key differentiators I have shown you earlier. I'm trying to go to that slide here. So customizable deployment options, right? So I can deploy it anywhere, pretty much in new premise, new partner premise, I can do that. And here is the slide. Okay. So user experience management is a crucial piece that we can bring in. Flexible commercial models, that is something that we are very different from any of our competition. Software-defined storage, there are some people offer it, but none of the people who are offering this as a service is, can bring that complete virtual desktop as a service to them, right? Of course, evergreen IT, there are some people are offering that. Customizable deployment options, as I said, that is unique. We have more options than our competition. Right. All right. So, Mike, there is a question.
Right, I see it there. Does this, I think he was talking about ACI. Does this mean that you will have a lot of work configuring your policy for each application you will have in your environment? So you can set policies for applications that you want to drive priority for. So, if you think about a VDI infrastructure, it's pretty self-contained. Like we can get, you can get roughly 5,000 users in a single 42U rack, including the storage requirements in a data center. But when that traffic from VDI leaves layer 2 and goes into layer 3 and up into the core, it competes. I mean, there's a lot of traffic coming from a lot of places in the data center. So with ACI, you're able to take and set priority for all applications by default, and then pick the applications that you want to prioritize as higher priority and give them policy that guarantees they get the policy you have. So if you have 3,000 or 4,000 applications in your environment, you may have, I'll just pick a number, 100 that are really the critical applications. You would create purposeful ACI policies for those 100 applications, then have a default policy for everything else. Hopefully that answers the question.
Okay. So, Mike, there is a question for me now here. So the question is, am I understanding correctly that under this arrangement, users could share software licenses based on availability and others not currently using the licenses? So multiple users could potentially use an existing global license based on their work schedule globally with fewer existing licenses. So obviously, the first thing I would say is that these licenses, we definitely have to check with the vendor how they're actually, scheduled. The second part is when you have usage pattern on your fingertips, then you could certainly observe the patterns and move some of these licenses to concurrent model rather than a user or a named licenses. If you do that, obviously a concurrent license is a little bit more expensive than a name, but what we notice is there are so many times people request one software, it sits idle on their desktop. It doesn't do anything. They may use it once or twice. But as a part of this, monitoring and reporting, you're going, that in user experience management package, we're going to monitor the usage of those applications, which means if the usage is not there, we can always take that license back. That will help you in, reusing that application license somewhere else, which means that you're not paying for the unused licenses anymore. So that is a theory, but what is the reality in the industry, right? So what we have noticed is definitely that there is a 10 to 15% of the savings when it comes to license utilizations. That is what we have noticed. And I'm pretty sure most of you can relate this in your organizations, especially if you're in a software supporting roles. You would know somebody will request a software. They probably use it once or twice. That's it. It's sitting idle. So those are the things I'm talking about. All right, we have less than a minute. Any other questions that we can answer?
I think we're good, Gopal.
All right, sounds good. And, the last close, this one is from an adoption perspective, of course, we have to align our strategy with the individual organizations. When we talk about cloud strategy, some people are testing with it. We do actually help organizations to set up cloud virtual desktops in Azure, AWS, and now we're even partnering with VMware with their Horizon Air. So we do offer plus on-premise. So obviously you have to segregate your workloads, right? So you need to know the workloads that can go to cloud. Obviously there are certain workloads you will not be comfortable putting them in the cloud. So those are the workloads, we can balance both hybrid model. Okay. With that statement, I'm not seeing any more questions. So I would like to thank you all for taking time and joining this webinar for us. It's a pleasure talking to you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much, guys. Have a good day.